Seven.
Over here.
Seven.
Seven.
Over here.
Look here.
Seven.
Look here.
Seven. Look here.
Seven over here.
Seven.
Over here. Seven.
Smile.
In Hollywood, the end is rarely ever the end. It's just a pause between the next franchise value retention initiative. Nothing that happens on screen matters if there's still money to be made, silly. Studios can't resist reviving a franchise, even if it means unraveling a beautiful conclusion or awkwardly dragging beloved characters out of the grave with a vague explanation and a contract extension. I'm Seven McAllister for Seven Entertainment, and let's take a look at 7 TV and movie franchises that called it quits and then came back. Before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and give a sweet little nudge to that notification bell. Also, we're not going to count reboots in this list because we'd be here all friggin' night. We're just going to focus on continuations of the original story. Oh, and if you're looking to avoid spoilers, we're going to be talking about Dexter, Dexter New Blood, the Toy Story movies, the Matrix movies, Logan, Deadpool and Wolverine, the Friday the 13th movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, Scream, Halloween, the Terminator franchise, and Shrek. So, you've been warned. Number 1. Bay Harbor Narrative Butcher. Once upon a time, Dexter was a brilliant, tightly wound drama about a blood splatter analyst with a side hustle and vigilante murder, and up until his battle with the Trinity Killer in Season 4, it was one of the best shows on TV. From then on, not so much. When the show limped across the finish line in 2013, the fans were expecting Dexter to somehow face justice or comeuppance for his many crimes, but the folks at Showtime copped out with the infamous lumberjack ending. Instead of closure, they put the dude on ice in case they ever wanted to do anything else with him. Fans weren't just mad. The whole deal became a cultural punchline. You know, they had a chance. Dexter could have died in that hurricane. He could have been brought to justice for his many misdeeds, but no. Showtime and the creative team blinked. They sentenced him to beard exile in the woods instead of paying off his own arc. The prolific serial killer who escaped consequences time after time was spared, all for the possibility that someday they might be able to draw blood from this stone one more time. And of course, they totally did. We got Dexter New Blood, a prestige redo a decade later with actual stakes and, dare we say, some pretty decent storytelling. In this series, Dexter meets up with his long-lost son Harrison, tries to teach him the family business, so to speak. Wouldn't you know it, they finally had the guts to kill off the titular character. Real bullet, real body, real, okay, now we're serious. It felt like redemption, both narratively and karmically. Karmically? That's a word, right? And here's the kicker, they set it up perfectly that if they had their heart set on keeping the story going, Dexter's son was now perfectly suited for all of their spin-off needs. But no. Dexter Resurrection is coming to Showtime this summer because apparently death in this universe is more of a vibe than a verdict. They couldn't just resist another blood slide. You know, at this point, Dexter Morgan isn't a character. He's like a franchise zombie, a sociopath with more comebacks than Michael Myers. With every new installment, the only thing he's murdering is a narrative closure. Number 2, Perfect Trilogy and Beyond. I don't know if this wrecks my cool guy cred to say it. Screw it. I'm old, and I've never had any cool guy cred to begin with, so I'll just say it. Toy Story was one of the most perfect trilogies in cinema history. The first film revolutionized animation. It was heartfelt, funny, just a masterpiece. The second deepened the themes and was somehow even better. How many sequels are better? And Toy Story 3, this wasn't just a kid's movie, it was an emotional sledgehammer disguised in plastic. All we hear about in the first 3 movies is how important it is for a toy to be loved by a child. And when Andy hands off his favorite playthings to the next generation, circle's complete. Literally, the only way it could have been improved upon is maybe if he had passed them down to his own children. It gave fans closure, tears, and the rarest gift of all, an actual satisfying ending. The toys found peace, Andy grew up, we all ugly cried in sync, it was perfect. Then came Toy Story 4, a film that asked, what if we threw out all that dumb closure stuff and made Forky instead? And to be fair, Toy Story 4 isn't bad. It was beautifully animated and existential in a way only Pixar can pull off, but it felt like an after-party to the after-party. 4 takes Woody's happily ever after and chucks it in the meat grinder. The new kid isn't interested in Woody, so he ditches the gang to chase Bo Peep and his new purpose, Buzz gets sidelines, the toys just kind of exist now. Worst of all, 4 affects the ending of 3. Go back and watch it again and see if you feel the same way when Andy hands off Woody and you see that this kid isn't going to give a crap about Woody in a few weeks. And now, surprise, Toy Story 5 is apparently on its way. We don't know much about this new movie yet, but one thing's clear, when it comes to saying goodbye, this franchise got commitment issues. Number 3, Snicked Happens. Logan wasn't just a superhero movie, it was a gritty, emotional, Oscar bait western where your favorite unkillable mutant finally got the death he deserved. No CGI sky lasers, no team-up quips, just a broken man, a road trip, and the kind of bleak beauty usually reserved for prestige dramas and, Bruce Springsteen songs. Hugh Jackman had played Wolverine for 17 years, and this was the mic drop. Bloody, poetic, definitive. When it was all said and done, Wolverine sacrificed himself for somebody that he loved. In an interview with the BBC, Jackman even said, "I was very clear this was the last one when we were making it. I don't think I could have made this movie unless I knew that. I'm going home. It's been a great party. Thank you. I'm putting my pajamas on and going to bed." Well, leave it to Deadpool to wake his ass up, because naturally nothing says meaningful character death like being yanked back into the Marvel machine to do punchlines with Ryan Reynolds. And look, it's a fun romp. Jackman and Reynolds have undeniable chemistry, and the introduction of the new multiverse now means that canon is just like a polite suggestion, but let's not pretend this isn't textbook Resurrection shenanigans. Logan was the rare superhero film that said, no more capes, no more sequels, no more franchise fluff. It stuck the landing so hard, and now we're peeling it back for buddy cop antics and fourth wall breaks. It's like if The Dark Knight Rises ended with Batman's funeral, and then the Lego Batman movie showed up with a crowbar yelling, "Psych!" And it's the same deal as Toy Story. Can you watch the heartbreaking end of Logan now and not envision the merc with a mouth playing with Logan's skeleton? So yeah, Wolverine's back again. But we saw Logan, we mourned him, we moved on. Maybe it's time the studio did too, or at least, bought him a grave with a zipper. Number 4, blame it on Neo. When The Matrix blasted onto screens in 1999, it was a mind-bending, bullet-time philosophy bomb that practically redefined sci-fi for a whole generation. The story of Neo freeing humanity from a computer simulation felt complete by the end of Matrix Revolutions. The trilogy closed with a neat bow. Neo sacrificed himself for peace. The machines and humans reached a truce, and the prophecy had been fulfilled. The Wachowskis walked away, apparently done rewriting reality. For years, both Lana and Lily Wachowski steered clear of revisiting the franchise. In fact, Lily was openly vocal about her disdain for the idea of jumping back into the Matrix universe. In 2015, she called the notion particularly repelling, criticizing Hollywood's endless obsession with reboots and sequels over fresh stories. The Wachowskis had moved on creatively, and the Matrix saga was done. But life doesn't always stick to the script. After the tragic passing of both their parents in 2019, Lily stepped back from the public eye, grappling with profound loss. Lana, too, found herself processing grief in unexpected ways. It was during this difficult time that Lana conceived The Matrix Resurrections, a film born less out of commercial ambition and more from a deeply personal need to reconnect with the world and characters that had shaped her life. Resurrections wasn't pitched as the start of a new trilogy, but rather a standalone meditation on nostalgia, identity, and loss, an artistic way to channel healing through Neo and Trinity's return. Yet despite the Wachowskis' intention, Hollywood being Hollywood, the franchise is already eyeing a 5th installment, signaling that in Tinseltown, the end is often just another comma. So while Revolutions was meant to be the final chapter, and Lily once said no way to revisiting it, life's curveballs and maybe a little studio pressure prove that even The Matrix isn't immune to sequels. Number 5, Back from the Dead. In horror, the final chapter means exactly nothing. It's not a promise, it's not a contract, it's a marketing ploy written in blood-red Comic Sans. And since this whole list could have been slasher films where they keep bringing back the main baddie, we decided to just squeeze them all into one entry. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, was the 4th movie in the Camp Crystal Lake Chronicles. The 4th, guess what? Several more films followed. You got Jason Lives, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and Freddy vs. Jason. Yeah, final chapter, My Machete. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare, they literally blew up Freddy's head and yet he clawed his way back just 3 years later for Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and then, of course, Freddy vs. Jason, and I will admit to unapologetically loving New Nightmare. We've got Halloween H2O was marketed as a true finale. Laurie Strode literally cuts Michael Myers' head off. The end, right? Boom. No. Halloween Resurrection revealed it was the wrong head, dummy. Then the series was rebooted by Rob Zombie, then rebooted again in 2018 with a new trilogy that takes into account some of the old movies, but not all of the old movies, and that ended with the cleverly titled Halloween Ends. Spoiler alert, it probably won't. Scream 3 was written as the conclusion, then Scream 4 promised a brand new trilogy, that died, then Scream in 2022 decided numbers are passé. Now we're 6 movies deep with more on the way. Let's see, Saw, the final chapter, also known as Saw 7. Bloodbath was over, till it wasn't. Jigsaw, Spiral, and Saw 10 brought it back from the grave. Over the decades, the scariest thing about horror franchise hasn't been the masked killers or demonic forces, it's their unrelenting inability to just move on. Number 6, Hasta la Vista Closure. The Terminator series was never supposed to be endless. In fact, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the pinnacle of the franchise and arguably one of the best sequels of all time, had a perfect ending. The robot apocalypse Judgment Day was averted, the machines weren't coming to stomp on our skulls, and then the studio was like, well, wait, what if we just didn't? James Cameron originally shot a definitive finale. Sarah Connor, older and wiser, watches her grown son play with his daughter in a peaceful, Skynet-free future. Humanity had won, the war never happened, the machines stayed fictional, the end. But that ending was scrapped. Why? Because studio execs looked at the box office and realized they could keep squeezing this IP for every microchip it had. So instead, the theatrical cut ends on an open-ended freeway monologue about an unknown future, giving Skynet just enough wiggle room to claw its way back from cinematic termination. And claw back it did, again and again and again. We got Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, where Skynet wins anyway. Terminator Salvation, now with Christian Bale tantrums. Genesis, spelled like a mid-2000s MySpace band. The Dark Fate, which killed off John Connor in the first 5 minutes just to keep things extra spicy. Every one of them tried to be the real sequel to T2. Every one of them swore this time it's different. Spoiler, it never ever was. What started as a tight, brutal sci-fi horror film about destiny and survival had become a factory reset franchise, endlessly restarting itself like a haunted Roomba with daddy issues. In the end, it's clear as day that when Arnold said, "I'll be back," dude wasn't kidding. Number 7, Get That Green. Finally, we're going to talk about that big green guy who keeps coming back. No, not him. There he is. When Shrek Forever After hit theaters in 2010, it was billed as the Ogre's grand finale. The posters literally called it the final chapter because nothing says this is the end like a desperate subtitle and one last big merch push. And the people behind the scenes played along. At the time, director Mike Mitchell told the Deseret News, "This is it, a real finale to our version of the Shrek stories. Once the story was in place, there was no stopping us." The film wrapped up with Shrek finally embracing his happily ever after, surrounded by family, friends, and the realization that being a domestic swamp dad wasn't so bad after all. Roll the credits, everyone. But apparently there are always more layers to this onion. In an interview with Screen Rant writer Josh Klausner revealed that the final chapter narrative wasn't part of the original plan. When I first came onto the project, it wasn't supposed to be the final chapter. Originally, it was slated for 5 films. Then Jeffrey Katzenberg decided this is the right way for Shrek's journey to end. So Forever After was less of a natural conclusion and more of a studio decision to tie things up early, not because Shrek was tired, but maybe because the box office was starting to yawn. Of course, all of that got torpedoed when DreamWorks was acquired by NBC Universal in 2016, who never met an animated series that it couldn't crank out a crap ton of sequels to. Suddenly, the idea of a peaceful retirement for Shrek seemed negotiable. Now, Shrek 5 is officially in development, slated for a holiday 2026 release, with the original cast, Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz, all returning, which, again, Not surprising, because Mike Myers has never turned down an opportunity to do a Scottish accent. Well, there's our list. Did I leave out any other TV and movie franchise that called it quits and then suddenly decided to come back? If so, please leave them in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please do us a solid. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and give the sweetest little nudge to that notification bell. Until next time, I'm Seven McAllister for 7 Entertainment saying bye-bye.